Hi, in this video on my robotic hand I want to focus on where I left last time, which is why does the pneumatics not work as intended? Because when I hit a switch or one of the other switches, it turns out that the behavior is quite odd. And diagnostics shows that there is nothing wrong in the connections, so it has to be software, but then again it is responding in a different way than I programmed. So why is that? Another focus is once again with the elbow, because as you have noticed, the hand is supported by a table edge, and the question is, what happens if I remove any support for resting it? Logically it will not stay in this position, and that has proven by the way the gear is doing, because if it would have been supported, then I can just take it back from the table and it stays in this position. And if the gear would work, I could lift it without a problem, but that is not the case yet. So what happens if I remove it from any support? So that is what I want to look at right now. And the best thing to do is then to pivot it around the base, because I can just easily turn it. But what happens with the arm? So let's see about that. I lift it, I easily turn it, and you can see by this slightly tilted movement that it is held by the gears, but not enough, and it holds. However, it is not held by the gears, and for that I will have to turn it a little bit more. Because here you can see it is held by the construction of the elbow, which in itself is good. That is strong enough, but the rest is questionable. It is also the question if the pneumatics still work in this position. Should be, of course, but you never know. So I think I will test that for now. Who knows what happens. So with the program running, I try to start the compressor the usual way, but to my surprise it doesn't respond until now. So let me build up the pressure a bit, and as you can see, this should not be happening. Once again, it shows that the compressor does work, but this should not be happening at all. So there's no change in algorithm working, or whatever this is called, because in the past it worked perfectly. But my point from this focus is that although the upper arm is supported by the frame of the elbow, this is in a sense a way that is acceptable as long as it is unsupported. So nothing is being jammed electrically or pneumatically, so I can shift my focus to what is really needed now, which is the algorithm and why it behaves like this. And that is going to be a tough task, but let's get it. Well, there is something to admit. A slight mistake I made, because when looking at one program and starting another, which seemingly looks like it but isn't the same, solves a lot of problems. So when starting the same program as you're looking at for the source code, means that fourth finger works, third finger works correctly. Now I have to keep in mind that it is pivotable, so I better hold it. Second finger works, first finger works, and this is a problem anyway, because why doesn't the fifth finger work, or the thumb? And now for two fingers at the same time. Yes. It is difficult as always. Let me just keep trying. But this finger doesn't work, and that is still a problem that I have to solve. But I am happy to see that at least the pneumatics work and that I used the wrong program to test. Alright, still one thing to solve. That may be a piece of diagnostics to solve, so let's see if that works. And let me put the camera onto the diagnostics. Yeah, better take a different angle. So with screencast still not working properly on this laptop, I have to do it this way. And then everything works, so I should see, by pressing the thumb, I should see an input, which I don't. Input 4 works, input 5 does not work. 3 works, 2 works, 1 works. Five is flaky. Five is quite flaky, so why is that flaky? It works. Four has no issues, 3 has no issues, 5 looks like fine, right now. So that must be electrical wiring acting up, and I should love to replace it, but that's the problem. You have to have replacement wiring, which I don't, so I have to deal with this. Anyway, that's how you test things. And back to the next issue, which still is the elbow construction. So that is for that's the next act of things. And back to the elbow construction. By lifting the upper arm, it becomes painfully clear that this construction is way too flexible, because when I look at it here in this position, in the current construction, the motors and the gear will never be able to lift the arm, because in this situation it's almost entirely free of the motors. So this gear will never be driven correctly. Like this it will be, and like this you can move it almost as freely as possible. So, as nice as this construction may be, in this case it won't work. And that's a bummer, because I want it to be able to completely lift it. And it clearly won't. So that forces me to yet another reconstruction. And that's going to be a challenge. But what is life without a challenge? So let me turn it once again, resting it on the edge of the table, and see what I can do about that. With attempt to make a more rigid and solid construction for the gearing, or more appropriately the gear support in here, fixed to the lower part. The question is, will this work? And all we have to do is to rotate it around its base. Then you also see that this is not the solution. It is sliding apart quite easily. So that fills, and even more so. So the construction has to be much more rigid, which is a problem, because if I take this away, oops, you can see that several parts are getting loose, but also that this plate for the motor, which is connected to the rest of the frame, is leaving just too little space for a solid construction. So I do have to find a solution for this construction, and that will prove quite a challenge. And yet again, what is life without a challenge? So that will be the next activity. During the reconstruction or attempt to do that, I found that the whole base was too flexible, so I put construction like this on the other side, and I added a fixation here so that the whole underside of the elbow is now rigid. Remains a problem here, and it seems that no matter what I do right now, including putting the motors at more distance from each other, so the gear is more sunk in. The construction is too flexible and is not fixable right now, I'm afraid. The only solution might be replacing this part as well, which means replacing the other side too. And for that I simply lack the parts. So unless I find some replacements, this construction is not going to hold out. But improvements have been made, so that is one result, including the program. And conclusion about the program is that it did do what it did, but it was the wrong one. A little bit embarrassing, but such things happen. And with that, next topics will of course be focusing on the gears. So, for now, thank you for watching, and to be continued.